Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to break down the intense psychological descent of one of ancient literature's most compelling figures, Duryodhana. We're going to explore exactly how a few, honestly seemingly harmless physical blunders in a magical palace completely spiraled into this toxic well of envy and ultimately absolute despair. So let's dive right in and look at the exact anatomy of an epic humiliation. But before we really get into the ancient text, I want you to think about a time you were deeply humiliated in front of your biggest rivals. How did that sting actually feel? I want you to hold on to that feeling for a second. Because to truly understand this text, we have to ground this ancient royal grievance in a highly relatable, intensely modern emotion. We're talking about the kind of public embarrassment that doesn't just fade away with time, but literally burrows into your mind and fundamentally changes how you see yourself. All right, setting the scene with Section 3, the Palace of Illusions, entering the Assembly House. Moving right along to Section 4, a humiliating comedy of errors, the physical descent. Okay, so picture this. Duryodhana is this incredibly powerful prince, entirely used to the absolute utmost luxury in his home city of Hastinapur. But in this new magical mansion built by the Pandavas, he is just completely out of his depth. I mean, look at this rapid-fire sequence of events. First, he steps on a crystal surface, mistakes it for a pool of water, and awkwardly pulls up his clothes. Once he realizes he messed up, he wanders away, feeling pretty embarrassed, only to, step 2, find what he thinks is solid ground. But it's an actual crystal lake, decorated with crystal lotus petals, and he falls straight in, fully clothed. Servants literally have to bring him dry clothes. Then, step 3, he walks confidently into what he thinks is an open doorway, but it's closed crystal and he smashes his head so hard his brain is reeling. And finally, step 4, he sees another door, assumes it's closed this time, stretches his hands out to push it open, but it's already open and he just tumbles right down to the ground. It is an absolute relentless barrage of physical blunders. But right here, this is where we really need to pump the brakes. The text explicitly notes, beholding the plight of Duryodhana, the mighty Bhima and Arjuna and both the twins all laughed aloud. The menials, the servants, they laughed too. And for Duryodhana, who the text points out is unused to putting up with insults, this is the massive turning point. The slapstick physical comedy just completely evaporates. Those physical bruises on his head from the crystal door, they are absolutely nothing compared to the psychological wound inflicted by the echoing laughter of his greatest rivals and their staff. He tries to hide his emotions, won't even look at them, but the damage is totally done. Section 7. The toxic seed of envy, the journey back to Hastinapur. So Duryodhana leaves the vast, frankly unimaginable wealth of the Rajasuya sacrifice and starts this long journey back home to Hastinapur. He's traveling with his uncle, Sakuni, but Duryodhana is so entirely consumed by his afflicted heart that he's dead silent. He's just ignoring his uncle's repeated attempts to even talk to him. Because during this long, quiet chariot ride home, a profound transformation is happening inside his head. In his mind, he's obsessively weighing two conflicting realities. On the one hand, he's picturing the Pandavas, happy, receiving homage from all the kings of the earth, everyone doing good for them, and just growing in unprecedented prosperity. And on the other hand, he's feeling his own state, afflicted, pale, decaying, and feeling utterly destitute despite his own royal status. He literally cannot stop reflecting on their splendor. And it's this unchecked, internal weighing of their soaring success against his perceived total failure that becomes the exact root of his jealousy. When he finally breaks his silence to his uncle, his words are just staggering. He says, "I being filled with jealousy and burning day and night, and being dried up like a shallow tank in the summer season." Wow, what a visceral, vivid metaphor, right? He isn't just annoyed, he is physically deteriorating. The envy is acting like a parasite. The prosperity of his rivals is literally evaporating his life force, drying him up from the inside out. So what exactly is feeding this fire? Well, he gives Sakuni a very specific list of evidence. First, military dominance. He says the whole earth is under Yudhishthira's sway because of the sheer might of Arjuna's weapons. Second, social and religious supremacy. Their grand sacrifice actually rivals that of the Celestials themselves. Third is the economic humiliation. Proud monarchs are reduced to bringing wealth like common tribute payers. And finally, absolute political impunity. When Vasudeva brutally slays Shishupala, everyone just forgives it. Why? Simply because they're terrified of the Pandavas' power. Every single detail on this list is just eating away at Duryodhana's pride. Which brings us to Section 11, Duryodhana's breaking point.
the descent into despair.
This is where that mere envy curdles into a total psychological breakdown. The sheer weight of his rival's success pushes him right past the point of rationality, straight into this abyss of isolation and utter hopelessness. Just listen to the raw emotion of his confession here. I shall throw myself upon a flaming fire, or swallow poison, or drown myself in water. I cannot live. He tells his uncle that no man possessed of vigor can possibly bear to see his foes in prosperity while he sits in destitution. He feels like he has zero allies to help him acquire this level of royal prosperity, and because he can't achieve it, his immediate, tragic next step is self-destruction.
And the breakdown goes even further, attacking his very core. He tells Sakuni, "Therefore I am neither a woman nor one that is not a woman, neither also a man nor one that is not a man." His fragile ego is so completely shattered by the Pandavas' success that he can't even define his own identity anymore. He's literally questioning his very humanity. If he cannot conquer his foes, if he just has to sit and watch them thrive, he feels he is completely devoid of identity, reduced to absolute nothingness.
So how do you even survive that kind of total collapse of self-worth? Well, Duryodhana rationalizes his defeat by dividing the world into two forces. On one side, human exertions. He admits he tried in the past to destroy Yudhishthira, but all his efforts were completely baffled, so he concludes that human exertion is basically fruitless. And on the other side, supreme fate. He claims Yudhishthira grows inevitably, beautifully, like a lotus from within a pool of water. By blaming this supreme, unstoppable fate, Duryodhana excuses his own failures, sure, but he simultaneously seals his own sense of absolute crushing powerlessness.
And that brings us full circle right back to the incident in the palace. Look at how he sums up his pain to his uncle. "Beholding that prosperity, and that assembly house, and those menials laughing at me, my heart burneth as if it were on fire." Why does this matter? Why are we even analyzing this ancient text today? Because this exact moment acts as the psychological blueprint for a catastrophic conflict. It wasn't just about the loss of wealth or land, it was this lethal cocktail of public humiliation, laughing servants, and unchecked burning jealousy. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. How can a simple physical misunderstanding, literally just tripping over a crystal floor, and a brief moment of laughter ignite an uncontrollable fire of destruction? I think it perfectly exposes the extreme fragility of the human ego. When envy is left unchecked to dry up the soul like a shallow tank in summer, the consequences are never just internal, are they? They have the power to burn down absolutely everything around them. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this deep dive leaves you with a lot to think about regarding the ancient, yet incredibly modern, anatomy of humiliation.